Exceptional. Take a look at Pawn's build. Rod of Age has been stacking for 5 minutes. Lichbane is a second item. Yeah. Thanks to Koro's kills and farm, he's got that Black Cleaver picked up, and even Deft just picked up some armor pain, getting closer to that last Whisper. So those shock blasts are going to do a number on Fnatic's defense and allow EDG to siege and poke them away from the tower.
Yeah, Twisted Fate plus Jace poke is going to be able to keep Fnatic with their turret here. Luckily for Fnatic, they do have the King of Waves clear victor.
Running with the hard engage off the job, and Huni, while he didn't have a good early game because he's been camped so much up in that top side, he can still engage the fight and lock in one of these targets, burst them down with Febiven for Fnatic. So if EDG want to play it safe in some way, they keep running 1-3-1. With all these teleports here, have your Twisted Fate sit in mid and just keep going to both side lanes.
I think the thing that you do, though, is you combo your Twisted Fate with your Jace, because in the mid lane, Twisted Fate can then teleport to either side, you know, while Jace and Twisted Fate are poking in the mid lane. Plus, Jace has a speed boost he can use to disengage for them.
Gentlemen, Yellowstar, he fancies this one. He's going to pulverize onto Clearlove. The Unbreakable Will is there as well. Rainover's jumped in. Deft has got dunked by the Cataclysm, and he's dropped. The Grand Challenge is onto Huni, and it procs, healing up EDG. But it does not matter. Koro's killed through the heal. Clearlove stunned up by Reckless. The pulverize connects. Fnatic find 3 kills. And they set their sights on Baron. They've peeled backwards.
We just talked about how EDG does not want to group up, because then the hard engage from Fnatic can happen. And what do we see? Well, they get the fight. They start the Baron.
Yes, they're going for Baron here, and it's just Pawn and Mako on the outside. Gonna try and poke them off of it here.
Online race.
Find out if they do. Mako's gonna need to wind up that chain and find a target. 2,500 hit points on Baron. Paul is gonna throw the wild cards. They killed Yellowstar. The Baron's secured. Will they win the fight? Pawn's knocked up. Reckless looks for the stun. He's got one. He's got 2. They've got Baron. Fnatic lead EDG.
What a play from Fnatic. They know how strong they can be in a 5-on-5 team fight. Yellowstar was baiting it, and he goes in first. Rain over the flank. Everyone from Fnatic collapses.
You have to be decisive when you're facing this much global pressure. And Yellowstar, the captain, the shot caller for the team, makes the play. He dodges the hook from Mako, circles around, Rainover teleports in, and they're able to get the fight they want. Deft here, stuck in the middle, can't even click the lantern and had to flash out.
Well,
meanwhile, they've got Koro as well.
Again, this time around, Fnatic catching Koro, the straggler.
What's going on here? We just praised EDG for the coordination there. Great communication, suddenly using 3 teleports. Koro just got completely caught out for absolutely no reason. Grouping up early as well to get the team out for Fnatic. They just turned this game around.
You have to be so careful. When you are running a high pressure team with multiple teleports, you have to coordinate your pressure. You can't just have one person splitting while the rest of you are, half your team is purchasing in base. Everyone has to coordinate their wave pushes. Bottom and top need to push at the same time. There, Koro was just pushing by himself. Nobody else from EDG.
All right, let's leave qualifying behind us now. Let's focus on those lights. Make a good start.
And of course, because Deft was dunked so early on, he never got to deal damage. Febiven's early advantage gives him some help.
Green.
So congratulations to Fnatic. They knocked down the inner turret in the bottom lane, knocked down the inner turret in the middle lane. They may lose their top lane. Pawn has got a large minion wave to play with. Has got a Lichbane as well, so it's a 2-for-1 trade. And Fnatic are peeling back because their recalls were interrupted.
This is a play EDG has pulled off quite a lot back in the LPL when they're trying to always trade objectives. They knew, okay, we can't really defend properly. They could maybe even tower dive as we try to. I only wave that is the Twisted Fate at the moment, so they use him instead to get some. They take a tower, but Fnatic can still be super happy in the last 5 minutes.
Especially with the Baron buff on Fnatic, so different. You do get something back for themselves during the duration.
But that was the whole discussion we had before here. What do you do here, EDG? Who do you send down to the second side lane? Jeff Flora sitting in one of them split pushing. Who do you send down Deft to sit on his own with the Jace because he doesn't offer that much wave clear in the mid lane if you want to have the Twisted Fate to both lanes? Who really group from and start poking. Again, that's so risky because the hard engage doesn't happen. So they need to be able to put pressure on all three lanes. They have to go towards the top side now and set that 1-3-1 on EDG. They're so far back on the map, it just becomes a lot more harder.
And because Fnatic just got such a big mid-game play, they got a whole bunch of vision while they were going there. Not only did they take down a bunch of turrets, but with the double sight stone for Fnatic, they've been able to lay so much vision down in EDG territory. As soon as EDG tries to set up one of these plays, it does take a while to get there, Fnatic will know about it.
Look at all those wards in the bottom half of the map. Horn did walk over that big ward, pinged it out, and has actually gone back to kill that resource for Fnatic. For Fnatic, Dragons up in 5 seconds. They do have the time, and they're deciding all their information, shove those waves in as best we can, try to secure at least the first objective. Only 2 Dragons and 25 minutes. It's not been a primary focus for either of these teams.
It's all been about top lane, really. So far away from the Dragon, basically all the plays in the early game is just to get the 6%. Let's see what happens. Who's going on Taylor?
Yep, he's got him.
Love's in trouble. He's going to get headbutted out of the Cataclysm, and Huni follows up with a great Dragon Strike.
Another pick here for Fnatic. And again, that Dragon that Fnatic got is actually fairly big because, 26 minutes into the game, the 6% does mean a lot, and it was awarded to them because they had so much deep vision from that last push. On top of it, they catch Clear Love here. EDG starting to crumble.
And they really need to start getting caught out because every time that happens, their split push breaks. Because suddenly now you have to back away from the side lane. You have to respect the fact Fnatic have 5 members on the map. So Goro now has to go really far back. He cannot use the big wave. Fnatic can set up another slow push and then start grouping again and look for another fight.
Of course, Clearlove, this is the first time he's been caught out of position. Much like Huni, throughout the group stages, both players being a little over-aggressive in their positioning, maybe too far forward. All the tempo is now sitting with Fnatic.
I just want to re-highlight how important we talk about Thresh is in this composition. Right there was a perfect example where Clear Love should have been with me. That is a support jungle duo that's supposed to be
Trying to get a good run out of the last corner,
Thresh is so
slipstream past
safe
him on the
if
straight.
they are together. However, no Mako there, Clear Love gets caught, he gets pushed around, and leaves more space.
To continue to stack up, Oro's had the Ravenous Hydra versus the Titanic Hydra of Huni. Muramana has been completed for Deft. And the 3 item spike for Reckless has come in, so everybody's scaling. Paul's got himself that hourglass as well, so a couple of tricky plays can be initiated for Destiny. Fnatic playing it safe, pushing those waves out slowly but surely. Top will be going towards EDG in the next few moments. That will give a couple of tools for Fnatic. A minute till Baron. Fnatic love Baron.
Their thing.
I feel like EDG do as well.
Both teams often play so much around like this, 25 minutes, get one fight, get a pick, and then take that Baron and stay using it. But for EDG, these team fights, if you get the 5-on-5, who do they want to kill? Obviously, look at Reckless, look at Criminal. There's Cleanse one of them that's very smart. That was a sacrifice for not having teleported early on. I think Kennen is one of these AD carries who feel really well for himself because he has a massive AoE on him, stun you if your goes in with squish targets, and take them down.
Not only that, but going with this build for Reckless, it's all based around sustain and auto attack speed. So he's getting off multiple stuns, multiple charges. You just buy a little bit of time, steal up 4 life because you're life stealing on all of these targets with your double life steal build. If you don't focus him and burst him
This
down,
guy's all over you, filling the mirrors. Time to cover the inside line and break as late as you can.
Provide that CC that Fnatic need because they have many lives to run damage on top.
And if you get an aggressive ult team in the backline from the 50 lockdown target, then all 5 members of EDG are stuck in there. They're all trying to kill to the same guy, 2 million champions for Deft and Coral, but Deft wants to burst with this.
Yellow Star again.
2 teleports available for EDG as their solos are down in the bottom. Double stun and Clearlove and Mako. They've already got Mako. Clearlove's looking to get away as Reckless looks for the stun. Finds it. May not get another. Continues to auto-attack. 2 members down. With Aegis Spike, Fnatic may need to defend. Koro and Paul, they've got an inner turret. They've got a minion wave to work with. And Fnatic, they're a little split. Mooney's decided to back away. Bevan Featherman is already in the base, and the rest of the team on Baron.
Yeah, he can't do it by himself. It doesn't matter. Han and Koro are going to be able to take this, and he's also got to be careful about getting killed. Let's see if Fnatic can take that Baron, though.
Koro's in so much trouble. The Cataclysm locks them both in, and with the Chaos Storm and the Death Ray, Featherman's already got a kill. The knockup doesn't connect, but it does not matter.
Huni comes in to dunk while they take the Baron. Now Fnatic can press in. They should get an inhibitor off of this.
And much like the first time we saw Huni play Jarvan, he got shut down in the early game, but once we get past the laning phase, he's able to create picks with the rest of his team. But this really is Fnatic knowing how strong they are around Baron. The way they set it up, they force EDG to come face check, flank around them, get the engage once again, and they manage to constantly force team fights on EDG.
Part of the reason why quadruple global teleport comps are so rare is because they take so much precision to pull off. Quite a lofty task.
So I will admit, after watching this Jace pick with depth, I was super hyped at first because you talked about how
I was glad we were on it, but it hasn't really.
He's really done absolutely nothing.
Meanwhile, the Kennen, huge more reckless.
Even laning phase, completely even. Deft always uses teleport back to lane. He had no pressure on the map, really. Huni's gonna catch him.
Well, a little bit of trouble here for Pawn. Lock it up, not gonna happen. Pawn makes it out with 200 hit points, but Fnatic with the Baron-empowered minions, they're knocking on the middle and bottom lanes. There's a teleport to the inhibitor. Pawn is going to secure this one. He may even be able to get out alive. He's definitely been reviewing the backdoor tactics.
He has no minions, though,
But Huni's got home guards, though. He's got home guards. He's coming in for the repeat dunk.
There is no Cataclysm. I think losing one life for supers might be worth it if the rest of EDG can defend. There's no teleport for Huni.
But
Fnatic
he was the wave
in the
clear.
base.
He was the wave clear that just disappeared to take an inhibitor, nothing else. There was no minions, so he couldn't go further and threatened to backdoor the Nexus as well. So Fnatic knew, okay, well, he's gonna get one, but now we don't really care because he's gone. We can easily just push up. Huni's going to join his team, and that's 5 members from Fnatic. They can dive EDG super easy.
Cataclysm's only a few seconds away, but this tower is down. It has been deconstructed in front of EDG's faces. The second inhibitor falls, and there are supers on 2 lanes for Fnatic. This is the single lane for EDG.
Nothing that was worth it. Just even if you
Concentrate on the light. Let's make a great start and make up for quality.
Stay with his team. Straight for EDG.
If you look at that goal difference, when teams have had a gold lead at 20 minutes at the World Championship, they have an 89% win ratio. Currently, Fnatic's looking to be the 11%. They've turned the game around after one successful team fight. One misstep from EDG.
Well, these EDG are really, as we said, such a delicate team composition. It takes so much precision. If you make that one mid-game mistake, we saw how heavily Fnatic were able to punish them.
Force of there. I think he's done quite a lot with this Jay. And it's somewhat weird. It's so late in the game. It normally doesn't do much, like 30 attack damage. 32 minutes. It's not a massive upgrade. It's a very expensive item. But it seems to be more he wants to move speed from it. He wants machine proc to get a little bit more burst. But he can never really go camera from against this Fnatic lineup because they want him to jump in with the rest of the team. So they have Kennen AoE, Victor AoE, Alistar knockup, everything to just take down these squishy targets. So I don't really agree with this 24-5.
Pawn has realized the error of his ways. Joined the rest of EDG to wave clear under this turret. Baron has worn out, so Fnatic are waiting for those supers. Pushing the middle lane quite deep. Fortunately for Fnatic, there's going to be multiple supers in the bottom lane pushing against them, so there is a little bit of a timer looking against this top lane siege.
Yeah, right now, EDG are hoping that Fnatic stick around and are a little bit too aggressive. But EDG's only chance here is to make it all in at the turret. Whereas Fnatic can just wait around. They've got all the cards.
See when they reveal them, Kobe. Minion wave danced its way up to this top tower. How quickly Pawn can clear them. Melees are down to half hit points. Reckless gets chunked. Gold card comes out. Clearlove has found him. Reckless gets pushed backwards, and he's shut down by Dip. This could be the team fight that turns it around. 2 members of Fnatic go down for only Clearlove from EDG. Nevervin's forced to retreat. The double kill will be added to Koro's score. Fnatic lose 4.
EDG do it. They pull off the only thing that they possibly could, and all in under the turret. And they, well, and the here. Looks like Koro's going to be able to...
Look at all the minions on the bottom side here. There's double teleport for EDG if they want to take that wave and start pushing it towards them. They want to kill first and then try and go maybe and finish the game.
Well, Nevervin needs to buy time. There's 20 seconds before his teammates are alive. And if EDG are unlucky, they will be able to take him down, but the supers may not be able to be enough. Slicing Maelstrom
He bought
still
a lot of
available.
time.
Yeah,
So
5 seconds left on Reckless. I think they're okay.
Right here for Fnatic, they got a little bit too
Forget about
greedy for that
qualifying now.
tower. Reckless
All that matters
walked up
is the
very close,
start. Good luck.
550 range, took a massive hit in the face.
Green, green, green.
Flash forward. There's no cleanse for him, no QSS, nothing to save him. That was EDG. They invested everything.
They just dropped all the cards. Everybody up on the turret is exactly as you said, and then Han, right after seeing the poke land, Han goes in for the flash gold card on Reckless. That's a signal. Clearlove flashes in, and they're able to take him out immediately.
So key that Clearlove flashes forward. Otherwise, Yellowstar might have been able to just headbutt him away and avoid Reckless being shot back into the team. When he flashes forward, they can guarantee what's going to happen. They win the fight.
Exactly. They knew this was their only outfit. All in at that turret. They've got 2 inhibitors down, so it's coming. And they came up clutch, made a big play. Fnatic still definitely in the driver's seat, still definitely with a huge lead here, but EDG on back.
as we come out of that replay, Reckless has completed the Quicksilver Sash.
He learned.
Different that fight could have been. This time around, Reckless gets dunked and deals no damage that fight, thanks to the great work of Pawn, Toro, and Clearlove. Fnatic, their 10k gold lead has shrunk to 4k, and inhibitors will be respawning very soon. Jeez, just reset the map.
Yeah, Baron's up in 20 seconds though. So Fnatic are going to try and grab the scuttle, work on vision around this area.
They have teleport ready for Mooney, so he can stay on the bottom side and always control that wave when the stream is coming in case someone pushes it back. And as long as you bait around Baron, it's so easy to go push out top and mid lane at the same time for Fnatic. So this will nullify their global a little bit from EDG, make it easier for Fnatic to get a 5v5 team fight. You even saw Mooney with home guard sitting up waiting in base. And they're saying, oh,
Yeah, he's going back
again.
down right now.
He knows they're going to be wards behind EDG and he wants to guarantee that engage.
It's a tense moment for the shot callers. This is where you make or break the game.
There's no room for mechanical misplays.
Every second means Pawn gets closer and closer to that bottom inhibitor as well. And Fnatic can't make up their minds. Rainover goes back, and he's left the tunnel. They're going to commit.
Sentence finds Yellowstar. The Baron's being bursted so quickly. Pawn has started to channel his TP, but it may be too late. 2,500 hit points on Baron. Will it get secured by Fnatic? And it does. The knockup finds 2. The double finds 4. And the Maelstrom mounts Edward Gaming, sending a massive message that Fnatic want to win the first game in this series. Koro and Def are running for their lives, and they will get run down. Def will drop the hammer, but it will not matter. Reckless gets the kill, 9, 2, and 4, and Fnatic should knock down the Nexus.
EDG unable to use their split push because of the Baron, and you saw Yellowstar sit ready to headbutt Clearlove away, so he couldn't get close. He had to try and throw in his ulti. Wasn't enough, and Fnatic are looking to take the first game.
Fnatic have got Baron-empowered minions knocking down the Nexus. Koro will follow shortly, and as Edward Gaming are ace, Fnatic take the advantage and are one step closer to a
Try and stop
semi-final
this guy getting
spot.
underneath you. Cover that inside line.
Great, decisive mid-game there from Fnatic. Yellowstar and Co. making a huge turnaround.
And that is so key for Fnatic because they were on blue side in this game here. Every single team in playoffs, they picked the blue side. That's supposed to be the stronger one. They get the first win on
Pile
it.
on
They
the
have
pressure.
some
This
target
is great
bans
stuff.
coming
You're going to
this
do him
time.
in the next few laps.
Obviously, we had EDG banning the Mordekaiser and Gangplank against Fnatic. They can change that for the next game. Maybe look towards Rainover even more, say base of Rek'Sai both there.
So, AD carry Jace definitely did not work out
It
as
gets a
intended.
1 out of 10 in this game.
But let's also be honest, it was not necessarily,
Denmark here is harsh.
maybe
1
not
out of 10.
necessarily the reason they lost, because if they had not moved and given up the lead in 23 minutes, played the map a little smarter.
Sure. Two very key things happen. First of all, Fnatic realized we don't have to try and make plays in the early game against all the mobile. So like they saved the cooldowns, flashes, and everything to try and stay alive as long as possible and always just chip away from the towers. And then, as you said, EDG were like, guys, we're winning because we're split pushing. Let's group. Let's go around mid lane and see what happens. And instant engage wherever.
So here's one of the reasons why I just like the
That's your fastest lap so far today.
These novelty AD carry picks, because it's so important to have a safe AD carry that can lane and get CS while your support roams. Support roaming is so big here at the World Championship. Not the finals yet, that's the World Championships. And we've seen the teams get punished so heavily for it already when Mako and Clear Level are separated. Big things happen.
And they made it happen, found the opportunity. Fnatic take the advantage in the series. We're going to head over to the analyst desk. We're standing by to take a look at that game.
Thank you very much, guys. I'm joined here by Jat and Freak to break down that very first game of Fnatic versus EDG. Woo! What a game it was. A fantastic game. Let's just start with that.
Absolutely. I mean, there were so many cool things going on here. We got to see triple teleport come out. That was interesting for sure. We got to see some really tenacious calls as well. The 21-minute semi-ace where Yellowster makes the right call to go for Baron because the chance of a steal is actually quite low. A lot of very, very smart choices made this.
A lot of stuff. So let's start by the early game and the picks that came out. Obviously the Jace AD carry, but maybe more surprising, all of the teleports. How did EDG use that to their advantage in the early game?
Yeah, so interestingly enough for EDG, the Jace teleport never actually teleported to make a positive play, so it played out mostly like a double teleport team with usage bait, which still had a global advantage, and they mainly used the teleport bottom to try and keep map pressure on that side. You would have actually expected Fnatic to attack the teleporting AD carry since he had no second defensive summer a little bit more early on in the game, but because that wasn't happening, EDG kept finding numbers advantages throughout the rest of the match.
And something for Fnatic, sorry to cut in, which is a change from sometimes the overconfident plays we see them make in the past couple of weeks. When it happened a couple of times that they got dove on with a couple of teleports, the next time they were careful and they waited it out.
I mean, yes and no. We actually saw a lot of kind of bad plays. There was the kill that was initially off screen and the replay happened. Rainover chasing into a 1v2 under his own turret after Huni already got dive. Rainover's like, me too, I'll give you some kills. And the Koreans, like, Fnatic started out like 2-7 total or something like that. And a lot of that, to be honest, not to blame Huni for this one, but he picked himself into a bad one-on-one matchup. Jarvan's never going to 1v1 Fiora, to my knowledge, but for the team fight, it makes a whole lot of sense, be a follow-up CC. So picking for the team fight rather than the lane, EDG correctly identified to attack the lane in the laning phase, but it's going to work, and sure enough, it did. But then the team fight's exactly what Fnatic picked for, those didn't work out.
Yeah, and let's take a look at one of those team fights that swung the game back in the favor of Fnatic when they grouped up and showed what they could do versus that EDG composition. We can roll the clip.
Yeah, and this is Fnatic only having one teleport and using it aggressively, but it's exactly the type of team fight that they're picking. The Alistar, Victor, Rek'Sai, lots of these AoE CCs, as well as the Kennen who can jump in here. Deft did not do damage in this fight. I think we saw afterwards it was something like 176, burns both summoners and still dies. But this giant cluster of particles are mainly good for Fnatic because most people are stunned inside Reckless's Kennen ultimate. Every time Fnatic could successfully group, they had the superior teamfight composition because Pawn was never set up properly. They couldn't poke very well with Deft, and the aggression of Fnatic in between the windows of being exploited by EDG's global compositions are ultimately what won them the game. And as Freak was saying earlier, this was an incredibly smart Baron call.
Right, so the only guys alive are Mako and Pawn, and Yellowster, look at him. He's gonna realize that, look, I just need to buy some time, make sure my team doesn't get AoE, so he happily walks into death. He doesn't really care. The rest of Fnatic off-tank it properly, then just a very good re-engage. It's a 1 versus 3. You're pretty much never gonna win a fight like that. Not a lot of damage comes out of Thresh. You know, that's good stuff there. I do want to highlight one small thing in the beginning of the team fight, though. Deft did not seem like he was all that used to playing with teleport because he
Put
right here, he TP'd on a lantern because he's used to that button being summoner heal. And I know I've like tried to run exhaust AD carry before and like done nothing with it. Like that happens sometimes, and he clearly hasn't played it enough to have the right muscle memory in a team fight.
Yeah, and there we see Fnatic huddling, of course. Need to keep calm, only 1 victory. They need to get 3 if they want to win this best of 5, but good signs for them. As we look a little bit more into the game, of course, those teleports that were very useful for EDG early they give them kind of an insurance when it went awry in the late game, because whenever they do win a fight, they could put the pressure on the base. We have a team fight from later in the game where Fnatic sets to pressure on the top turret of EDG. We're going to take a look at that, and oversteps their boundaries.
Yeah, well, I think this was an example of EDG controlling the people who were winning the fights for Fnatic. Reckless basically gets zeroed out in this fight, and it was, in my opinion, a lot of the Kennen ultimate, which was creating the ability to follow up for the rest of Fnatic. So in this one, it's mainly just Fnatic getting too aggressive at this turret. They have 2 inhibitors down, so they could have actually been a lot more patient with this until the minions were nearing the Nexus, but instead Pawn gets a good flash, and right as soon as that stun lands, the rest of EDG just piles on.
It's a really good chain of engage. Clear love with the knockback in. Reckless never gets to do anything, of course. He's not going for the Zhonya's Hourglass, so the R Zhonya's that he had a window for can't happen. And Koro honestly navigated these team fights beautifully. He's against a big team of AoE crowd control and still finds ways to turn on the ultimate, proc all 4 vitals, get a big heal, where if the team doesn't get one shot, 700 health goes back to the team, and EDG wins those fights.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about this game, though, was the willingness of both teams to pick fights. The bloodiness in this game was really high. We were nearing a kill per minute by the end of it, which is higher than, by far higher than the average at Worlds, and also higher than the average from the LPL or the European LCS. And I actually think we're going to be seeing a lot more of that from these teams just out of the picks from Game 1. Huni very willing to pick an aggressive choice, very willing to opt into weaknesses to get advantages elsewhere. So we're seeing a lot of mismatches just based on the coaching and picks and bans, which always leads to more interesting games.
Yeah, maybe to close this off, we did see the teleport strat in Game 1 coming out of EDG. Will they completely overhaul that strategy? Would you?
I mean, maybe. Honestly, like, Death's teleport meant very little.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to take Gromp and TP in for some wards, extra potions. And his 2-on-2, despite facing a fairly scary duo lane, got to get back and get more farm, but that teleport meant basically nothing. It was a comp we've seen the entire time of the tournament. TP mid laner, no surprise. TF, no surprise. Deaths meant very little.
Yeah, I think double TP is the thing we're going to continue to see. I don't think triple TP is the thing we're going to continue to see, and I expect Death to pick more to win the lane. I think he can punish Reckless's Kennen if he continues to go for that pick. He's been practicing a lot of Caitlyn, which is something we saw yesterday, and has a very favorable matchup against the Kennen if they can manipulate that lane matchup. So I think that's what we're going to see from EDG in the next game.
Yeah, a lot of tools to work with from both sides, but it was a fantastic Game 1. We're going to step away for 1 second, or a couple of minutes actually, but when we come back, it's going to be Game 2 between Edward Gaming and Fnatic for that spot in the semifinal. More World 2015 coming your way right after this.
It was possible.
I was trying to look for the goal, we did it also. Couldn't find.
Martin the Heartbreaker.
Onto the tunnel from behind. Huni throws down the devices down the Dragon Strike, and it's first blood to Featherfin. Pawn's in so much trouble. Yellowstar needs to hit his combo. Flashes for the knock-up hit, but Pawn backwards. Mako saves him, and EDG decimate Fnatic.
Jeff and back, Jeff and back. Yep.
Nice. But base. Go back. JCQ. Good job, guys. Really good job.
And he's shut down by Def. This could be the team fight that turns it around. 2 members of Fnatic go down for only clear love from EDG. The knockup finds 2, the dunk finds 4, and the Maelstrom melts Edward Gaming. Fnatic now 1 step closer to a semi-final spot.
track limits, keep it between the white lines. Let's consolidate that lead. Leading by 3 seconds, good job. Keep pushing, we still want that gap.
Welcome back to the 2015 World Championship quarterfinals, where Fnatic is up 1-0 over EDG after that explosive first game. And here they are headed back to the stage, getting ready for Game 2. But of course, before we get into Game 2, we have an issue on which we need to apologize. Last week during an After Death segment, we got a question from Je suis Pepe Le Pew, who asked how to deal with double or even triple TP comps. And we were a little dismissive of the prospect of a triple TP comp, and lo and behold, it has come to pass that one exists. So first off, I sincerely apologize on behalf of my analysts for being so dismissive of that. Secondly, there was a pretty fabulous example from Fnatic of how exactly to deal with a triple TP comp or even a 4 global comp in this game.
I think he just pulled that tweet back up just to say his name again. But anyway, when this tweet did come up, my response was hard engage. You come in there with hard engage. But what Fnatic does here is not only do they have hard engage, they cover the TP zones. The gravity field will come down on a TP area, and they also have Reckless's ultimate on a TP here. Look at that gravity field come down. Coral says, nope, I'm not coming in there. Stops the TP, and then it becomes this centered fight for Fnatic, where they are grouped up and the TPs are not. And when you have this many TPs on members, you're actually losing in-combat summoner spells. You're lacking 3 of them when you could have more power in these team fights. And when you look at EDG's types of statistics, they are actually #1 in assists per kill of quarterfinal teams, which is indicative of team fighting, which is their tendency to want to do that. When you don't have that sort of summoner spell, you're weaker in these fights.
All right, well, moving on to Game 2, but keeping in mind all the craziness of Game 1, both in the champion picks that we saw, as well as the back and forth explosive nature of that game. What are we looking for in terms of changes, adjustments that these teams are going to make in Game 2?
It is like, I'm looking at it for starters. Like, they had this strategy, like, it's like this business joke that is going on. Like, they do something during the game, then there's a question mark, and then there's profit. You know, with the question mark, I thought, okay, maybe they're going to go with the Jays, which is hard against the Jarvan. Maybe they will split push with this triple TP going on, which is also hard against Jarvan Jays later on. And that's is where I find the flaw. They had this idea of an early game where clear up just manhandle Reno, which worked, and they came out ahead, but later on, what were they supposed to do? I don't see it. It would have been just so much simpler with it. Tristana that had simplicity. You know? That's what I can see, like the question mark improvement.
I completely agree with the sentiment behind what you're saying. And first of all, if we change nothing and just get 3 to 5 games of exactly that, like, I'm the happiest man in the world. That was so fun to watch.
But that would mean EDG loses.
I don't.
5 games.
That's 5. That's 5. to your point, I actually think that we saw in the top lane team fight exactly what EDG wanted. What they wanted was to create some like chaos and then force decisions. We keep talking about this. And if they had actually just sent Fresh after the Victor, after they won their top lane team fight, they had 2 teleports available. I actually feel that they forced the decision. They sieged top lane turret. That was a wrong decision out of Fnatic. They needed to wait for the creep waves. Bottom lane had been set up for a slow push. Jace had a Trinity Force at that stage, but no other reason apart from Factory. And there was a Fiora that completely wrecks turrets. They honestly could have nearly stolen a win there after what turned out to be a very decisive victory for Fnatic after about the 19th minute.
Yeah, I definitely think that's a play that you have to go back and look at because there was an opportunity for EDG to just flat out end the game after it, and they did not do that, and that might keep them up a little bit at night. They have to shake that off, get refocused. They have to use that TP on death.
One thing
you're going to bring it, use it.
I have to keep us moving forward, so is that the final thing you have?
You have to use it if you're going to bring it. Use it effectively.
All right, well, it's time to get back on the Rift as we step back inside the venue. EDD's jungler explains Fnatic shouldn't expect to face the same clear love they saw compete in the group stage.
在是我的小组赛里面嘛，就是我觉得我自己的表现很一般，就没有什么特别出彩的地方，也没有说打到什么不好的地方，就我感觉表现得很一般嘛。也有我自己生病的原因在里面，所以说8强的时候我会表现出来一个另外不一样的我，会表现出会拿出更多的英雄，然后会打出开局的表现。
Let's take a look at those champions we're going to see. It was the Gragas for game 1. EDG are now on the blue side against Fnatic. Means the onus of banning out Mordekaiser, and Gangplank lies on the side of Fnatic. They took out the Tom Kentroller on blue. Will we see it again? That's what we're going to find out. Pick some bans for game 2. How do these teams adapt to what we saw in game 1?
It's going to be a ban all
series long.
All games today, we're going to see Elise being banned away.
Yep.
I would probably expect maybe a cannon ban from EDG on blue side, unless they feel like there's some very key target picks, because of what Reckless is able to do in these team fights. First ban for Fnatic, though, does show the standard OPs if Mordekaiser and Gangplank from them, but they do not.
Oh, they're going to do it. All right, so they're going to forego one of the 2 bans, maybe both of them here. The thing is, the reason why we haven't seen up until this point teams give away Gangplank and Mordekaiser is because then the opponent will take the Gangplank. Gangplank's actually really good into Mordekaiser because Mordekaiser has to walk through barrels, and the ultimate from Gangplank's great against him. All this AoE control is so good. See if
wow, both of them are up.
Oh.
What do Edward Gaming take?
So,
Gangplank and Mord are available.
Kobe just said right here.
I would take Gangplank.
Gangplank is the normal first pick.
Wow.
However, Fnatic as a team has shown a lot of picks that could do well against Gangplank, like a River. But Fnatic will get in this one. EDG really want to play around bot lane in this game.
Then who plays Gangplank on Fnatic? Has Feather been put in the time to play? Last time we saw Huni against Soaz playing that champion was not optimal, is the word I'm going to use. And Rainova opts into Gragas over Rek'Sai. What does this tell us so far?
As we said, like, you know, controlling zones and displacement and having slows is really strong against Mordekaiser. Gragas doesn't have to fully commit to try and control Mordekaiser.
Here's the thing, though. The way you play Mordekaiser is in the early game. You have so much pressure around where the bottom lane is. You want to set up tower dives. Rek'Sai is fine for that. It's probably Clearup's best jungler overall. So he's going to be more than happy taking it if he wants to play that very aggressive style. We try and push in the bottom lane, get these tower dives going. But I think also EDG, one of the reasons they take Mordekaiser is that their strategy last game of camping top lane didn't pay off.
Yeah.
It was good in the start, but they didn't win the game from it. They kind of relaxed later on. They want to go back to playing around the bottom lane. And this pick for Reckless is a very good pick into Mordekaiser.
Yeah.
Killing him.
Exactly. We've been talking to a lot of the AD carries here, pretty much all worlds long, about Mordekaiser. Nobody has an answer that yes, they would love to play against Mordekaiser, but they don't have so far.
And Reckless on a hybrid carry for the first time at the World Championship.
We're seeing so many different strategies changing that approach to the top side of the map in the World Championship so far. But bottom lane, the wrong pick the strongest GP2 playing in my opinion against the pressure.
Well, also, yeah, I think it's again fanatic taking for the team rather than the matchups here because I'm expecting this game plan to go top for Mooney. They need, you know, that front line to be rated plus Gragas. So they're going to try and deny some of that damage. I expect last pick here to actually be
with Kasanik locked in though. I think Gangplank can easily go mid for February. It takes a physical damage locked into the Kasanik. He doesn't care about that shield. And also, Fiora can carry the rush around barrels on the top lane, get close to the Gangplank, start trading really effectively in the early stage with him. So I think my team February take the Gangplank to mid, and then you get a counter pick up top instead of one thing it also changes is the good thing about flex picks by the situation.
And if the Olivia gets locked in, by the way, everybody in Liquid Gaming is a melee champion with Fresh Pink, the longest range on the list. That Olivia could cause a ton of problems for the EDG roster.
Yeah, for the same reasons that came.
Looks like there's one on your tail. Start defending your position. Cover the inside line in the braking area.
He is here instead.
I think Castellane is doing really well against a lot of these guys. Operate and sit early on, which trying to farm and sustain. Will get pushed into this tower. So we do see Victor just sit there and chip it away slowly but surely and then back to the panic. We don't normally roam that much on the zero. And we get now a match very explosive.
Also, it's so difficult when you give away Mordekaiser because it means you can't ignore these dragons. You can't ignore bottom side. EDG are obviously going to focus very heavily on that bottom side, try and get Mordekaiser ahead, and then that transitions very easily into taking dragons. And once he gets the pet, you get so much gold for the gold shut in turns. And returns are very easy.
We see Crazy Fnatic saying, we don't even just anyways, we want a super strong team fight against you. Zia can push him away. He can just get close to the play. You have the Gangplank, who's fantastic. Big team fights because that's massive. So,
yeah, the other thing is I really like the combination of Gangplank and Vayne because Gangplank and Ultimate allow Vayne to take her target down. So if someone overextends in the lane, especially Mordekaiser,
Gentlemen,
take him out.
Fnatic have gone for the team composition. Gangplank undefeated at Worlds. Mordekaiser undefeated at Worlds.
There can be only one!
There can be only one undefeated champion after this game. You need to let us know which it will be. It is game 2 of Fnatic versus EDG. And for the first time in 17 games, we see Mordekaiser and GP on the rift.
and we see EDG again running composition. Very low weight. Got it from the last game. We've seen it group stages. We've seen it back in the ultimate. Look at their lineup right here. Who's going to play the basically?
Well, the thing is, they're not playing.
Yeah, they're not playing.
Yeah, of course, you're never. Okay, I stopped myself. You're never planning on falling behind. But this is a team that relies so heavily on snowballing that if you fall behind anyway, then there's not that much point in having a wave clear because you're probably not going to come back anyway. So you all in on this strategy. You have the early game. You're going to try and snowball. You're going to try and get that more kind of control. Fnatic though, you're going to go in and get those people down.
Got that game won. If it wasn't for the Baron Apple points, that they took Fnatic plus 15,000. They may not come back.
I feel like that was trying to adapt to the real event that they've seen and experience playing torches and teleports. That is something that experience is crucial, and they were unable to come up in game calls. start to actually help out this jungler. Not doing a whole lot there, sitting in lane with Reckless. Just kind of splitting experience there. It's fine for people to champions to split experience with Mordekaiser, because Mordekaiser will last 10 minions to gain the full experience. So close to be able to try and keep up with them.
Obviously, EDG investing into the fast push. Western banner. But for Fnatic, we have a vein only for the you consider farm with solo experience, you want to come up with the quick pushes on those ways. But you do benefit from that.
That's our second warning for cutting the track. Be careful, otherwise we'll get pulled off the track. You're reeling him in, this is great stuff. Line him up and squeeze past.
Yep, they give him freeze, they give the power bolt to him, and they've dropped off the wards as well. They left now swap the Mordekaiser on the top. Max should be able to get this turret down in time.
Around
We've got some pressure from the guy behind. You'll need to break as late as you can. You may need to cover the inside line.
Because EDG got the early swap though, because they got the 20 seconds advantage, this is going to be looks like break it as quickly as possible.
Oh no!
Think about where he's slower than you. Keep pushing and see if you can take him under braking into the slow
Both sides
corner.
can do that though.
The problem is Huni is so far
Mirrored
back.
right
Yeah,
now.
but Huni is ready for this one. Look how far back he's on the map.
Koro is actually
now is running.
taking his time getting out.
Fnatic had a small opening to commit instantly, and then Koro already started running away. So both top lanes are reading the situation. They don't want to risk getting killed on the turret.
Keep your eye on the line. Easy with the right foot. Let's nail this.
This right here is actually why I prefer the top lane to stay there a bit longer before the big ones first. So he push a few minutes, they go back to it. He's trying to get so much he's doing nothing right now. Now they're trying to get some experience. And you see the tower guy pushing the wave. Look at where Fnatic was so top lane pushing the wave, and then like get more experience. And now it's kind of guide himself.
And it does mean a lot to lane swapping because he's playing Gold income is very snowball because of the Q, because of the extra gold. Lane enables you to earn gold quicker, keeping him off that train as much as possible. Stunted his growth a bit. Trying to keep up though.
Bottom side is very heavily pushing towards the Reckless on this side. So the Mordekaiser now
A lot of guys are actually making a move on and there are words for EDG here.
He's in so much trouble. He does not manage to flash away. He's going to get the movement.
This guy's right on your
He'll get a little bit more burst
See if
from
you
his
can put a trick
passive.
on him and
And
slow
here
down
is
in the middle of the
Yellowstar.
last corner
The
and try and
Unbreakable
punch
is
well
not
this
going to
way.
be used
Break
just
the
yet.
retreat.
Yellowstar's in trouble. He's now in full retreat. Find the support of Featherbit and first blood. Really easily picked up by EDG.
And that far out to a long really slow in setting that up. Great punish there by EDG.
Great move and a mistake from Fnatic not having back on the EDG. He can go bottom lane now and pick up his big anyway. More experience in farm. Fnatic keeps sending Reckless to the lane. You don't want one-on-one right now because he has no kind of experience. You want to keep going, walk your way through the scene. Koro is now farming the block. One is also something in Huni's here. Getting around and this time Fnatic realizes to back up the trade and shows up and just what's happening.
Sentence does get to the next primary cup. but the fight was enough to thwart these depth suppressors, and they're going to sacrifice the Ghost of Dragon Box.
Get the last hit.
That should give a Dragon Ball. He's gonna bounce out.
Teleport event, as does
He's still behind in experience, but he wasn't high up there. Fnatic tries to do it late to get too much fun.
Really been able to set so many kills by passive competition.
The key thing for Fnatic is always trying to get wave pushing in the mid lane when you have Fnatic sitting. And he needs to defend this once that breaks. That opens up for him to start getting into the jungle. Now he's responding to the defense moves. Next dragon might be the second because if he sees the top dragon, it's all into the champion. And they have to walk straight into the top lane. That's not good.
awesome being horrible has stopped other Mordekaiser's from picking up victories.
Once you get the dragon,
the key crux of it.
Another key is that Uni now finally has gotten level 6 of experience, so the bottom turret that you're talking about definitely rewards them cross map with their under level.
More deep vision up the inside under break.
Teleport and devastating mid. Get down this tower.
Yeah, the ward placement pretty much tells everything before they want to work on. Double pick wards up on top ward deck. PG can clear the ward out right now, though. We are going to see the first instance of Reckless versus Death. Maybe the Mordekaiser right now. Wrong phase. Can chase it down. Let's see about this as well.
So exciting! Oh, a little bit of the taunt there from Flora. What's so exciting about this Death and Reckless matchup, setting up, is now second game in a row, two different carries. Both players. You see whether or not Reckless can still pull off, like he was no good for Vayne years ago when he was progressing in. He was not good. Play that.
The big current Fnatic 1 year ago. Almost everything they did was go and build comps around Reckless, let him carry these fights. Then he joins Alliance, tries to do the same. Didn't really work out for him. Returned to Fnatic and now have Mooney in the top lane, and the whole game plan is different.
Yeah, EDG really playing their game plan very well here, though. They've kept up the pressure on all the side lanes. They're trying to close the noose here now on mid lane. It's up to Fnatic to put down defensive wards, because a lot of the movement is going to be between Fnatic jungle, between the lanes here. And EDG are passing through wards ever so slightly here, so Fnatic can see and make the proper adjustments to defend.
Only thing I would have liked to see from EDG was just put more pressure on this mid tower and threaten a dive against February. Force him to always take a very fast step back so he can't start instant clearing the waves, because that's what stops EDG from getting damage on the tower. Whenever Vayne is sitting in the side lane, she's not doing anything. She's stuck there. She's going to sit there forever and do nothing else in the farm. So you have a numbers advantage in the mid lane. Go and put all that pressure on February and force him to take that mid tower.
You have to, while Mordekaiser is good at tower dives, you have to be so careful thinking about the displacement that Fnatic had in zero Gragas ultimate and mid lane global. That is really, really difficult to pull off.
Good vision, though.
That vision, they allow EDG the pressure. Oh, that vision we've been talking about. Brings some threat on this tower with 30 seconds until the dragon spawns.
And look at the difference here, how far back February has to stand before he can start clearing the wave, just by EDG sending 3 guys into the mid lane. He runs all the way back behind his tower, they get a little bit of damage, a little bit of poke onto him, and they keep the pressure going, because you can see everything with these deep ports. EDG is a team, once they get the map control, they can take over the entire map. Because they have so much deep vision.
Wants to, and I'd even go further and say they have to, because remember how hard they've committed to this style. 7 seconds left on the dragon coming up. I think that they've done enough to secure this one. As we're talking about, should enable them to take it fairly freely. And the turret in middle being so low, this might be the last thing to knock it over.
All they were waiting for, chip away in mid tower, put the pressure on it, take that dragon, go and secure the tower, push Fnatic units further back. Reckless does not have a blade of the week yet. He's been sitting and trying to farm these side lanes so often that EDG really showing why Mordekai's early pressure can be so deadly. Once the tower goes down, Fnatic is here to try and defend a bit beforehand.
Well, Unbreakable will block those dragon auto attacks, and the dragon is getting chunked. Death Sentence finds Reckless, but there's no follow-up, and the dragon should drop shortly. Hold up there as Koro is challenging Huni to a duel. Flash away from Huni, flash forward for Koro. The cannon barrage comes down, and Huni does stay alive. They trade ultimates and flashes, but that's a big loss for Huni.
Yep, not able to finish, trade flashes though. He can still stay back away. Def uses the dragon here, I really disagree. Once there's no minions, don't just rush the dragon into the tower, because he's gonna get killed. Yes, enough time, wait for another wave, use it then to get some damage on the tower, rather than have to kill the wave.
And it's wasted.
Like,
Don't make the smile off of that.
Protect our Kobe or protect our dragons?
Unfortunately, EDG do not in this stage. Deft has got himself that Riley's Crystal Scepter. A couple of key items have been picked up. 600 gold. Reckless's back pocket getting closer to that lead of the routine. Huni as well. He asks the one question, do I have support?
So excited for the first team fight between these two. I want to see if Deft is going to be able to pull off Flash third bonk in charge of this Q to actually be effective, because it looks fairly difficult. Let's go over the zone control. I talked about that being the #1 thing against Mordekaiser. It's ridiculous. Gangplank, 2 forms. Gragas, 2 forms. Azir, 2 forms. Braum, 2 forms as well. So it's going to be so hard for Deft to navigate. We'll see if he actually can separate himself from the run-of-the-mill Mordekaiser, or if he is an expert.
The last time we saw this exact matchup was Wild Turtle against Imp. And Imp walked into the third box, disrespecting the melee range. So Reckless needs to be a lot more wary, knowing how Reckless has played team fights recently.
It is.
The theory.
I say.
Okay, you've got a warning from the race director for cutting the track.
It is a lot.
Try and respect the track limits in between the white lines.
We keep highlighting Thresh, how important it is for playmaking for these guys. Nico, a lot of weight on his shoulders to come up big.
he's not been doing a whole lot in this game, even though he's had full control of the Fnatic jungle for such a long time. He hasn't been seen to do anything. Showed up maybe once, that was about it. But also with this Mordekaiser, it's not like his damage rating is terrible. He can still really destroy you. It's just getting to these targets that's so difficult. EDG will have, instead, there are so many members with a lot of mobility, like Cassidy and like Fiora, they can get onto the background of Fnatic, but the Vayne can kind of feel a lot for herself. So it's going to be so difficult for EDG in these big team fights, unless they can get a big tower advantage, and they're not doing it because February is just sitting here wave playing, they're doing nothing, pressure away.
And that slower pace of game is so different from the previous match. By about this point last game, it was 11 kills on the board, and EDG had secured 8 of them. Admittedly, EDG had got 2 dragons already, which by this point last game there had been 1. So definitely prioritizing that aspect button, using the tool that Mordekaiser got.
Yeah. And it's funny, this time around, it's Fnatic who need to have a lot more precision in their execution to be able to pull this one off. Yes, they have a lot of tools to make this happen. This one is very important.
Piece of barrel, a big
Exactly.
fight.
Get a bonk in the face.
Not happening for Fnatic, but for now, they have been able to just keep it somewhat close to goal. due to the fact that EDG are always waiting for dragons to respawn. They want to play that 5-dragon game as well at the same time.
Not quite sure if people think that's why. That's Mace of Spades. I'll stop that from now on. You'll know why when you hear the noise, though.
Minute and a half till the next dragon. Yellow Star was very brave and cleared out that pink ward near the mid lane river a minute or two ago. And it is in ward just behind that dragon pit for Fnatic with teleports available. So let's see if Fnatic decide dragon number 3 is the one they want to contest. Give away that loot that's picked up. Another half-hearted attempt to push that middle tower.
That is feeding him farm.
Well, yeah. Another reason why we are seeing so much trepidation here is because these teams are not used to getting these champions. I mean, you don't play very many games where you actually do have Mordekaiser and Gangplank both in there. And EDG actually, the slower pace here is working fairly heavily against them.
I want to see where Mooney upgrades his cannon barrage. I think he's got enough serpents for at least level 1.
Complain about. That's where everything turns for EDG, trying to burst that person down, grab the ghost.
And look here what Fnatic is doing around the dragon. Look at their defensive ping wards, because they know there's a double teleport with 2 assassins basically that can flank and instantly kill your AD carry or your Azir in the back. So they have very, very defensive pings to stop that flank from happening. And now the trick for Fnatic is just keep pushing mid lane. Honestly, if you keep pushing mid down to this tower, the melee champion will be spotted sitting under that tower, and you can have full vision of where EDG is going on the map, and they cannot flank due to these defensive pink wards.
I also must say an important thing for Fnatic is not to all blow their ultimates at the same time. As soon as EDG initiate, they have to be careful. Because Fnatic have so many tools, they have to be careful not to overlap all of them.
But it is a good setup for now for Fnatic. EDG obviously is going to look to try and challenge it, get in there, see if they can get some deep wards behind Fnatic, so you have that flanking option with double teleport. And it's always a fun little pre-fight over vision and control of the map before the dragon starts.
Honestly, the reason that we put so much pressure on the early game and the snowballing and the team comp that EDG have put together here, the slow pace of the game into 21 minutes here is actually fairly good for Fnatic. Huni's been even able to farm up in the top side, sort of freezing there to the Trinity Force. And does have the high impact barrels now. So that's another reason why vision around Dragon is going to be so important. If you can set up barrels in the brush, then you get the chain reactions that really turn a team fight. And you mentioned Trevor, this EDG being very melee heavy. One barrel can take out the whole squad.
Yeah, we'll see whether or not Huni can make that land. I've heard from production that there is a keyboard-related issue with Rainover. The Q key, actually, specifically. So we're getting that resolved.
Very important.
Getting that resolved right now. And then, of course, we will get back into this. So we've mentioned the zone control excessively. The setup is in place. You can see the goal difference between the respective lanes, or really lack thereof. This is a very even, very static game that could be broken wide open by this very next team fight.
Yeah, and because Fnatic has been able to defend that mid tower, even though there's been 2 dragons for EDG already.
Yeah.
And just Fib been sitting and wave playing for most of the time, except for that second dragon where the rest of the team came in. EDG, again, has just been farming. They do have a team, though, that does really well with 1 or 2 items, like the Kassadin. Often the big spike frame is get 2 items, get the fully stacked Rod of Ages, and you start having enough power to really assassinate someone. Mordekaiser as well, once that Rylai is coming in. So it's not all terrible for EDG getting these big items, but they cannot now afford to lose a fight, because then the game simply just runs away from them.
Now, game running away, EDG have got great scaling in their Kassadin and Fiora. Questionable in Mordekaiser because it's so dependent on finding that third Mace of Spades. I quite like the tools that Fnatic have going forward, but it then relies entirely on the communication.
Yeah, execution
and not
is key
messing
here.
up, right?
Yeah.
I've just heard from our stats guy that Reckless has currently dealt, I think, 374 damage to champions. So, Fisher, you talked about him farming those side lanes. 153 CS, Blade of the Rune King picked up, and sitting on $1,200. He's making his way towards his second item. But, at what point does he start after that direction forward depth as well? The next step of all the allies.
Well, we hopefully should never see a Reckless alone versus death situation. Fnatic is going to do this as a team, but when it comes to damage, I mean, no scaling on the Bane. Blade of the King is the first important one. Where he starts handling himself, and even if the big team fight happens now, he can do decent damage if he gets to sit on the team.
Also, I have to say, the thing you need to keep track of is levels. Don't forget about the passive here for Mordekaiser. He's got 2 levels up on Reckless. Yes, the items are going to be fairly similar with the amount of gold he's been able to purchase, collect as he goes back to purchase next, but the extra levels there.
This is Los Santos Rock Radio, the flagship station for a state that's out of water. So the mudslides are got to fires. Welcome to paradise, folks.
They are stuck in traffic. Even sit in the same lane. People do want to get Tony, like jump in, have the ability to do it. Because Featherman is the wave player with the teleport. He's the guy sitting mid lane for Fnatic all the time. So he cannot respond to the side base pressure of double TP. There's a lot of ways EDG can play that out, either split with the whole thing or to jump onto each other.
Just to explain to the guys in-house, the players did pause the game to test whether or not Rainover did pass. For obvious reasons, the test did fail, I'm afraid. So the guys are busy triaging the problem. We need to get that spell again resolved. We'll continue to troubleshoot that. We've broken down some of the mechanics here. The plays, the team fights. Get out of where do these teams now sit in terms of communication, right? Because this dragon fight is impending. Fnatic actually backed away just before the pause came in. They set up the siege middle, they were healed back. The Fisher, you've touched on the defensive wards, and Fnatic are now on their line of defensive wards.
They've had a good 10 minutes to set up how they want to execute this next team fight. So both teams should be very ready. It looks like, EDG have moved in. They have to clear out some Fnatic vision before they set themselves up there.
That is the key thing for EDG and why they're moving back in. Everyone needs to keep pushing mid over and over. You also have to be careful when it comes to recalling close to a dragon. If you do set on 15, 1600 gold, you really want to go back to base. You want to spend it all, but you can't because instant dragon is going to be started then, and that's what's going to cost it. Fnatic, if they give up another dragon to EDG, not only is it going to be 3 dragons for 0, that dragon should matter when it comes to taking down that mid tower.
So let's talk dragon mechanics. 1 and 2 were not good. We've seen Mordekaiser 4 other times at the tournament.
Right.
Martin, you are the dragon aficionado.
Freak.
No, you were real excited about it the last time.
So I used to hate that dragon, but now I'm starting to loving it a little bit more, just a little bit. But I think the way Deft is playing with it is really wrong, because what he's doing all the time is he's going in, he sends it straight into the tower with no minions, and Fnatic just sits there and hits it and just kills it. And because it's 3 melee champions, or even 5 maybe, 4 of them, sorry, from range, EDG can't follow. The dragon is not enough for them to go in and hit the tower. So they just send in and kill it. They don't use the minion waves at all, and that's a big mistake.
My question is, are they going to let him retake this test? Is it graded on a curve? Come on. They need some help. Looks like we're going to have to send it over to the analyst desk, though.
That we are. Unfortunately, guys, we will head to the analyst desk. They'll keep you entertained and informed what will resolve the problem.
That we will. Thank you very much, Quick Shot. There is seemingly an issue with Rainover's Q on Gragas. Now, there is the proposed situation, which there's a known bug with Gragas, where you can't use your Q until you die. So right now, we have officials discussing what will happen, whether or not it is an issue with the keyboard or the game itself. In the meantime, gives us some time to discuss. Drastically different strategy here by EDG with abandoning the triple TP. They still have the Fiora on the top lane, but a Kassadin, a Mordekaiser, and a very interesting, and that was all initiated by Fnatic, leaving Mordekaiser and GP up in the picks and bans phase.
And that's really brave, because one thing that we learned about EDG in the finals, actually, is that Pawn's Pirate is, like, really good. Like, his Gangplank is really feared in the LPL, and he was playing at mid lane a lot and was getting really good success rates with it, like farming up an absolute monster. And because Clearlove is more of a go into the enemy jungle, Pawn would like clear mid wave, go to Wolves, clear mid wave, go to Wraith. Here we're getting like 70 CS.
An homage to the French crowd with the wave. Nice to see the audience taking it all with a grain of salt and keeping a good attitude. As we are in the pause. Continue your point, though.
Yeah, so I was really surprised they went with Mordekaiser, and what surprised me even further is how slowly they've played this game. Like, they are slow playing, and all melee comp against Azir. This is very dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. They have a lot of scaling, though, right? You have Mordekaiser, who does a lot of damage, but you have Kassadin, who will be a large backline threat to the Azir and the Vayne later on, and these are all squishies, right? Everybody that you go after on the side of Fnatic is going to be a prime target for Kassadin. They don't have a lot of wave clear here. You're kind of relying on the Mordekaiser. It might turn out to be a problem for them, but they can just stall out for 5 dragons. That's really the win condition here from EDG, is get skirmishes when you're hitting power spikes and get your dragons, and then at that point, Fnatic won't have a response.
It's like the first thought that comes to mind is obviously 4 many champions into this composition that he loves the situation that he run in. obviously, on paper it looks bad, but what we need to highlight is the fact that EDG have stronger matchups everywhere, on bottom, on mid, on top, and of course the Drake situation that we spoke about, but I feel they need to pick up the pace. They're playing way too slow, and I feel like Fnatic eventually is going to be in a position where they are stronger than them in a team fight.
And there's one strategy that was really popular in the LPL that I feel we have to talk about just because of the Mordekaiser, and like you used to see it in like Season 1, and that is Kassadin has, with Athenes, has a mana reset on his W and Athenes, so he sits in a brush and just spams his ultimate, right, until he like has all these stacks. Def flash ults the Vayne, Horn just runs out of the brush and one-shots the Vayne, and then they win the team fight off that. It's very, very cheesy, and you used to see it a lot with DFG Mordekaisers. I know you're a big fan of it, but if you're able to get that AD carry, things like Baron, things like turrets actually become really easy to take. So we'll see if they're able to execute on a team fight, because I feel like unless they get like the dream play, the kite back is so good on Fnatic's lineup right now.
Yeah, that's the thing, is as soon as a Rylai's Crystal Scepter comes out for Febivin, you're not really going to be able to get to him as a Mordekaiser. If he's playing it perfectly, you're never going to even get close. You're going to blow your flash, and still Febivin has ways to disengage you. So it's just that one key moment that Deft is looking for where he gets to bop a primary target. And like I said before, nobody's really tanky here. Like, even if you hit the gameplay, you might just one-shot it. You might one-shot the Azir or the Vayne. So all of these people are very easy to take down if the Mordekaiser closes the gap. That's just the question that we had to bring up, though. Can he do it?
Yeah. Well, so the theme here seems to be time, right? It's about how much time does EDG have to close out this game, or rather to get to that 5-dragon mark without Fnatic getting to a point where they can wave clear efficiently, or even then turn the tides and siege themselves onto EDG.
And I feel like there's actually a really cool strat that EDG can use here. It's now like 23 minutes into the game. Like, it's time for the Dragon versus Baron showdown. Just go get the next Dragon, march it through mid lane, like completely show your hand, right? Make it the most obvious Baron in the world. Tank Baron up with a Dragon and just make Fnatic come to you, because if they don't make a move within like the next 5 minutes, we will get to that point of the game.
It's just, like, with this play in mind, I feel it's, like, the composition that Fnatic has drafted, it's also, like, with the GP ult and the Azir going over the wall, I can imagine it's very hard for EDG to do the Baron, because they don't have, like, the
Oh, they should have committed to it. Like, after Fnatic comes, you get the heck out of the
forcing the fight, that, I like it. I like that. Forcing the fight, that's something we need to do. Because something that I want to talk about as well is, like, the Kassadin, because I've been hyping Kassadin all the time. We saw it yesterday as well, but Faker kind of died a lot of times in lane, sure. But I don't think that's relevant to my Kassadin point. I really like the confidence.
I love that you called yourself out on it, so it's great.
But then he took it. That's not relevant.
Come on. Kassadin, of course, I like the fact that Pawn is brave enough to climb picket against a player like Fabivin, because Fabivin has been criticized for a small champion pool. In this tournament, it hasn't been working because how the bans are structured. Nobody's targeting the Victor bans, the other bans. But Kassadin is really good against all those champions, like against the Victor, against the Azir. And the buff on Kassadin was immense. So he can start doing exactly as you said, just charging up on the bush and just one-shotting people.
And the Pawn's 15-0 LPL.
Yeah, the funny thing, too, is you can also do that in the fountain with Home Guard and TP. And then you have full mana for
We are so cheesy. We are the cheesiest.
That's the thing, is Pawn strikes me
Rank 5s here we have. We're going to play Mordekaiser with a Home Guard TP Kassadin, one-shot.
Auxiliate, you'll be flying, man.
Oh my God. I do want to talk, though, because we had a rather lively discussion about how exactly Kassadin fits into this composition. Because EDG has locked themselves into a 5 melee comp, it is making it very hard for them to siege. Would it not have been beneficial for them to, say, for example, pick up the Azir, which was the discussion we're having, in place of the Kassadin, if only to enable a little bit more siege?
It would have allowed them to take turrets. It would have been a different direction to kind of take the composition. Because otherwise, this is more, we can have these spread out skirmishes instead of team fights, right? Like they have the split push going for them, right? Koro has priority in the top lane over Huni at the moment, and he's continuing to just get chunks off the turrets, and it's hard to get some pressure there. But then if you start a skirmish on the other side of the map, you're in a good spot. So Azir would have been a completely different take, and there's more counter picks to it that you can run into it, because it would have been blind.
Yeah, and as I was going to say in the pregame, there's kind of this arrogance about LPL teams, and that is the fact that if they're even or ahead, they feel they're a better team, and then they shrug off victories like defeats like it's nothing. It's really weird when you watch them play, and EDG would have been like, we have a one-shot comp. We're not going to diversify it. We're not going to do anything. They're very tunnel-minded on how they want to play the game, and, you know, it's good because it makes the these bloody games and they like run at each other a lot, but it also does have very significant weaknesses like LGD stubbornness is not banning mod. I would say that's once again they would be like, we played it in scrims, we're better than Mordekaiser, we're just going to leave it up, and they got completely crushed by 2 games in a row. Like, EDG to me have kind of done a similar thing here, where they're just like confident in their own gameplay, and it's probably going to bite them if the game goes for another 10 minutes.
They reintegrated my team in Burundi after the design got signed off. And now, my shares
into EDG's idea. It's just the fact that they would, it's just so hard for them to play their composition against Azir.
Yeah.
We see them struggle, sieging in the mid simply because Azir can stand there and just relax, kill the mini wave, and also PU for the Vayne.
I just want to throw out an update. We're still troubleshooting the issue on stage. No ETA as of yet, but we'll keep you informed as it comes. Again, gentlemen, so to your point about, you know, basically it would have created 2 different styles of composition. It kind of ties in with what you were saying in the pregame, which is that EDG is a team that is going to force you into decisions. We're going to force you to make a decision about how we're dealing with dragons, because we're going to get to 5 unless you proactively stop us.
And the crazy thing is that Fnatic's Game 1 comp was a very, like, all-in, like, 5 people stacked on top of each other comp, which EDG are normally comfortable playing in, and they didn't pick that kind of comp. So this time, EDG went, well, we're going to pick an all-in, like, stand on top of each other 5-man comp, and Fnatic's done the opposite and said, we're going to play the disengaged kind of push. Like, they've actually completely swapped roles in this series so far. Shows the diversity of both teams, and the fact that they can both execute it up to a 23-minute mark is, once again, just fantastic League of Legends.
It's completely different than their tendencies as well throughout this entire tournament. Like I said previously, EDG has the most assists per kill, which is indicative of a team fight team. They're running skirmishes, and then the exact opposite is Fnatic. Their second least assists per kill out of all teams in the tournament. The only one that's ahead of them is AG. Right? So this is Fnatic, who usually runs skirmishes, running team fight. And this is just showing that they have those different hats. They have that versatility, which you need to have as a team. We've seen all throughout Worlds, people, and a rip, have one strategy that does not work out because people learn it. And this is great because when you throw out different strategies and you have these different things, you throw pick bans off, and in the state of the game right now, you can only get to throw off one strategy.
I want to take us back to the beginning of the game. We're hammering a lot on the compositions, but now I want to look at the way it was played out a little bit, because we had some criticisms about the Chinese team's ability to deal with the lane swaps. This time around, they seem to be a lot more comfortable with the way that the lane swaps are working out.
I think it was, like, in terms of European lanes, I don't like it.
Didn't start in Europe.
Yeah, I know, exactly. You know, like, lane swaps to me is like chemistry. Like, it's everywhere. There's a thing about reactions,
What is this shit?
We got it. Yeah.
You got it. This is beautiful.
You guys are looking like question marks. I'm telling you. In that case, it was played like perfectly. You know, like the top lane is coming into the wave that is coming in, and the bot lane is going to the wave that is coming out. That is lane swaps. I like it.
So I think actually Fnatic was a team that made the first error in the lane swap, because what happened is Koro burnt Huni's ultimate and summoner spell, and then they felt like they couldn't control Dragon, so they actually sent their bottom lane back top lane, and they kind of started the situation we're in. Whereas if they had have sent the Vayne down, there was only a 1 level difference at that point for some reason. Normally you're 4.5 to 6, and that's when you get the Dragon as Mordekaiser. Reckless had reached level 5. I honestly felt they could nearly have contested Dragon 1. And if they had have got the first Dragon by a stroke of luck with the GP ultimate and then the Vayne being able to cut out very well, this game would have been like, EDG would have nearly had to roll over from that point. You drop a Dragon with this composition, you are in very big trouble.
I feel like in that particular scenario, like Mordekaiser kind of causes this very strange scenario. Like in this case, like in lane swap, usually you send your bottom lane top lane because that is the way that is coming out, as I just explained. But with the Mordekaiser in the mix, it kind of changes your priorities in a way. Yeah, I think you have to give up those creeps, as you said, for the gangplank to just make sure your bottom lane goes down bottom to just contest that dragon, because I completely agree with you.
I also feel Gangplank ult is just so important in this matchup.
Hugely impactful spell.
Gangplank just as a champion. He's farming, he's getting extra kills.
Hugely impactful champion.
And while he's farming, he's getting assists across the map. But we haven't seen a lot of fighting in this game just yet. It's all of that just stalling out. And like we said before, it's time. And also another thing, like, because I'm a jungler and I was watching Rainover during the lane swap, he's taking some CS there. He's 18 CS after. I'm sitting there, I'm like, Those aren't jungle creeps.
Right. We were
He's
looking at the difference
heart there.
between
He's
reckless
stealing
and deft
things.
was pretty large for being, you know,
It was 20 to
4 or
28,
5 minutes
which
into the game.
percentage-wise is huge.
Yeah, I do want to look at the junglers, though, because it was another thing that we brought up. We brought up earlier in the day and before this game, the Rainover and Clearlove matchup. Game 1, Clearlove got the better of him 100%, was running him around. You know, this time, given the lane swap, they haven't had a ton of interaction with each other, but how do we feel Rainover is stepping up or not in this game?
It's kind of funny because the lane swap, in a way, hid Rainover and Huni from Clearlove and Koro, because in the last game at 16 minutes, there were 8 deaths for Fnatic. 7 of them were Huni and Rainover. They were getting smashed in the top lane. And Rainover just, he seemed a little off. He wasn't watching his Tremor since the previous game.
The Dieter Sack store detective.
From the bug
There's been a misunderstanding. I need you to help clear it up.
Kind of just playing around the map, not to the best of a degree, because EDG is actually controlling vision. EDG is actually, I think, they are the second best warding team out of the teams here. KT is the one that's above them currently. But EDG is just having immense vision control, which they can't really seem to keep up with on Fnatic here. And I feel like Koro's also contributing to that, which is another thing, is that everybody on EDG is stepping up.
The thing is, like, with Rainover in this particular case, there's not much he can do, because we've highlighted the fact that EDG has a stronger matchup, both in the split push, in the 1-3-1, which EDG is trying to pressure to gain access. The fact that Rainover is farming and keeping up with levels, that is the important thing, because I feel, in the current state, I feel like Fnatic is winning, EDG is not pushing their advantages enough. I want to see the 1-3-1 go into the enemy jungle and deny Rainover's farm completely.
I completely agree, and the other thing you have to take into consideration is the lane to gank is a joy lane right now, because it's very hard to gank Fiora, and it's almost impossible to gank a pushing mid laner in the fact that Forbidden is pushing into pawn a lot of the time. And you do not want to Grag escape Mordekaiser. It's very easy to prep the Q with Mordekaiser, and as he flies into you, just completely destroy the Gragas. I actually give credit to Rainover here, because I thought he would tunnel vision on Rek'Sai to the point that they would prioritize it over Gragas, and I feel that EDG wanted Gragas in this composition, because with the mid lane turret still up, it is so easy as Gragas to sneak around the side, chuck your ultimate out and give an alley-oop to the Kassadin Mordekaiser, and Rainover had enough courage, I guess, in this matchup to not prioritize his better champion and take the Gragas for the team.
And here's the thing as well, when you look at that, between that, Rek'Sai versus Gragas, Gragas brings way more disengage to the fight, and if you want to set up a 1-3-1, Fiora split push, Kassadin split push, you need a disengager in the 3-person, and they don't have that currently, so that might throw off the 1-3-1, because right now, who's going to contest Kassadin in the split push lane, right? There's nobody on this team who can do it. You don't send a Fiora to go through with it.
Who's going to contest a Fiora?
Yeah.
Gameplay is just going to get done.
You have 2 major threats.
Many things left unanswered. Now, as we continue to investigate the issue on stage, let's hear what Forbidden thinks of his lane opponent, Pawn.
He was extremely good, but I think I was pretty bad back then, and I improved so much. And what he's good at is playing for his team. He can basically play whatever. His laning phase is really solid. He plays most of the champions. He plays really good for his team. He roams a lot. He sacrifices himself for the team. That's what he's good at.
We have some statistics here, just so we can continue to facilitate conversation. Forbidden was up 30 CS at 10 and 39 CS at 20 minutes in Game 1 as Victor versus Twisted Fate, and was 36% of the team's damage, going 5-1-10.
Yeah, I think Forbidden's been having an amazing tournament, showing that this rookie does have a ton to show. He's had so much potential since he first got on the Rift, and we saw him in Challenger, and now making it to the place where he could go from quarters to semifinals and top 4 team in the world. Just a big leap, and you can show that he's living up to his potential.
Yeah, I want to talk about another rookie, the guy that he completely crushed in lane when they played Invictus Gaming, right? And this is a person that is heralded as the next Faker when he was coming out of Korea, and one of the better laners in the LPL, which has some good mid laners, and Forbidden did an absolutely marvelous job. As soon as he did that, because I saw a lot of Forbidden, but you always question regional performances, just like people will now question the Chinese regional performance, because of the MSI performance he had. But I completely agree with him. He is night and day, so much better after MSI. Probably the steepest increase in a player that I have nearly ever seen on the world stage.
I'm happy also that he recognizes the fact, because there was so much hype around Forbidden simply because he killed Faker at MSI, but in my opinion, his performance at MSI was okay, it was decent, it was good. But comparing that to now, there's such a big difference. That hype he had around him back then when he killed Faker should be around him now. Because I remember the particular matchup EDG versus Fnatic. On was destroying Prediven with a bad matchup. He was playing the long into Zed. Zed is considered the stronger part of the team.
And I think a big thing about watching these two guys is also when, sorry, my brain. That's all right. We'll talk about something else because I got. Anyway, sorry. So when you watch Featherton in the mid lane, and he said that he's gotten better over time, it's not just domestic performances that you have to watch, it's also international performances. Because we see people have great domestic performances, but they can't transition to the international stage. Their nerves get to them. But Featherton has been rock solid there in the mid lane. His CS has been going up, his differentials have been amazing, and his ability to kill you in lane is something that you can never underestimate against this guy. He is always very present in his games.
And another thing that you have to really give credit to because of how much pressure gets put on top lane for Fnatic, and then because of the fact that Yellowstar and Reckless, at the moment at least because of the cannon, are playing very much in tandem for the first part of the game. How hard it is to get these CS differentials in mid lane against other teams that like to play mid lane centric comps, and EDG can flex and do that. So being able to have these dominant performances in mid lane is just, once again, it's really impressive because it's the way Fnatic play the game.
He's like a god version of Full Outfit. Doesn't get the resources, but still wins mid lane.
100% agree.
Marvelous play.
However, in this tournament, he has actually gotten the second highest gold share on his team. Traditionally, coming into the tournament, we were looking at EU mid laners as having the lowest percentage of their team's gold, so that is indicative of the regions that's generally starting their mid laners. Somehow, he has scraped together a little bit more gold in this tournament.
He's continued to play Azir Victor. In that case, I will actually say that stat is lying a little bit because we've seen a lot of Kassadin and champions like this that don't necessarily get that. The wave clear mid laners that Forbidden has continued to play and play well do generally get a higher share of gold than, to say, the Fizzes, the Dianas, and the Kassadins that we've seen.
And it also speaks to like what the European that kind of evolved into. Like all mid laners were complaining into the fact that mid lane was just an island and nothing happened on it, it was just farm, and everything was impacted by the bottom mid lane where you transitioned the vision in that area to mid. And I feel like that speaks a lot to how people play in this place.
I want to get back to the game state that we saw when we left, which was that Dragon up. We're looking at the next Dragon fight. I want to figure out how Fnatic defends or takes a Baron for themselves. Because to me, it seems, with a Gangplank and Azir, you want to be the team that gets there first in this scenario and be entirely set up. But while Fiora is pushing a Gangplank into a second-tier turret, it seems nearly impossible for them to actually properly set up for the team fight that they will win at Dragon.
Currently, the lines that they have for wards are actually in their own jungle going across blue and red in a diagonal. They have a ton of pink wards on Fnatic's own side. So what they need to do is push their ward lines forward, get there first. Of course, you might have to sack a dragon for it, because you see EDG really want to go for dragons here. That's the thing, is you could trade dragon for Baron. You have Azir, you have Vayne, you have Gangplank. You have so much damage that you can deal with this. You're going to take it rather quickly.
Then I have everything I want, so why am I stealing?
Oh, my lips are sealed. EDG will not let you do that.
So the thing that EDG did really well, if you go back and watch this game, they actually transitioned their wards to the top red side of the jungle very well. They had red buff warded and one in the ward going up to the turret as well. And what that meant is that Huni was really hesitant to go slow push the wave, and he actually got beaten there. And they actually lost this dragon fight, in my opinion, the way it is going to play out a minute and a half ago, because they didn't get Scuttlecrab. Like, Scuttlecrab is so important for Mordekaiser teams. As soon as you secure Scuttlecrab with Mordekaiser, he hides around the corner, he takes one step onto the crab, flashes, and he's got this big movement speed bonus with his shield.
Oh, yeah.
So if they hadn't been able to get there early, this is a fight they should have been able to contest because they have the first upgrade from Gangplank, but it just didn't work out that way because they weren't there quick enough.
Get rid of the car, Michael. It can't stay in the driveway.
I feel like EDG are playing slow enough. Kassadin was freezing the bot lane for some time, and I feel like Fnatic can just wait for the fourth dragon and do the fight right there.
All right, well, while we work out the issues on stage, we're going to take the opportunity to check out a few of your answers to our question of the day. To remind everyone, earlier we asked which player or lane will have the biggest impact today and why. Jack Adams says Yellowstar is going to have the most impact. His calls and plays are unstoppable.
Can't milk those. His Alistair were really good game one.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked about how to deal with the triple and the triple TPs, and it was the decisive calls to make those aggressive team fights that put you in a in a global comp in a tough decision.
It's like how we describe Yellowstar back in Europe is that the good supports like Mithu, Vander, and Hassan, they take 98% of the chances they get, but Yellowstar is the person that creates his own opportunity. He kind of finds the engages that nobody kind of sees in this particular game first. But the set, we saw that Yellowstar was kind of a genius.
Next up, Even Horn says the bot lane for both teams, neither Reckless nor Death will give the other any room to play. Hashtag friendship goals.
No
is that friendship goals or?
I mean, you're actually making each other better players if you're actually just keeping each other honest. So that was one of the things too. When I saw the JCD carry come out, I was like, Reckless is sitting there in this game going, he never said that in the Skype group. I just feels betrayed. Where are the secrets?
This is one thing that I'm really interested in, just because of like the diversity between the AD carries. Like you look at Reckless and he plays very utility focused, which is why I'm super happy that he's on base, because I don't think that's how he has to play. I think that he can play other stuff. He just likes to play that way for his team because of Tony. Whereas you see Depth like even damage in game one. Like this guy is just like, he will eat every single piece of damage out of his champion, and it's just completely different. Like one wants to be that big damage threat in team fight, and one just wants his team to win. Like they're both going for the same goals, but they do it in very different favors, and that's why I actually give a lot of respect to both AD carries. I think that they're almost getting to the point where you don't necessarily compare them as like EU Deft versus Deft anymore, because they have diversified.
Now I want to talk then, since we're on the topic of AD carries, and we have Mordekaiser versus Vayne here. A lot of people don't have too much information on if this was a 2v2 matchup, how specifically those AD carries interact. So when you have a Mordekaiser on one side, is Vayne the proper pick, or they chose the lane swap, so I'm assuming isn't the best 2v2 anyway?
I think the first thought that comes to mind is Vayne has issues in the early game against things that push hard. And I think Vayne is a typical match to sit on their tower and Mordekaiser will have loyalty on almost any objective that they have. So in that regard, I feel it's kind of a dangerous pick. But then again, in mid game, he's very mobile. That doesn't need to itemize with itemize the attack speed and movement speed, and I think in that regard it kind of works out.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I also think it's very support-centric, right? If you're able to get something that can trim the wave, you don't necessarily have to play a late swap situation. However, they didn't go with that. I think that we're going to see a lot. If Mordekaiser keeps getting through, we'll see a lot of Kalista, a lot of Vayne. Same reason, very good fight back and AD carries. Both do a lot of damage to the person who's coming in. The Hurricane build seems to be popular because of the waves that are in the matchup, but I would like to see people adapt Bang's build, where he goes very single target focus with something like a static chip in there, because if you put a lot of spears into the Mordekaiser, all of a sudden he is very scared to try and continue this fight. And I think that is something that they can definitely take advantage of.
Yeah, I definitely think, echoing both of your sentiments here, very support-centric in the matchups, but you don't want to run a low mobility AD carry into Mordekaiser. As soon as he gets a Rylai's Crystal Scepter, you're never getting away from him, and he's just going to bonk you 3 times. So definitely think about the support you want to take, and you also have to consider the Mordekaiser support. Does he have a Zillion? Does he even have a Lulu or a Blitzcrank, right? Something that's going to enable him to get to you or bring you to him.
Now we have mentioned that EDG's primary win condition is the 5 dragons, but I want to return to the topic of engage, because as it stands, they have very little, if any, engage. Their most reliable source of engage is either a Rek'Sai tunnel or a Thresh.
Home guard castle.
It's like,
and or home guard castle.
While the win condition is very obvious, as we stated, 5 dragons, I feel like the hidden win condition to kind of get the pressure to get those dragons is making use of the Kassadin with teleport, the 1-3-1, keep applying pressure on the sideways, because that forces the enemy team to split up. They don't need to group up.
All right, well, because of the game-altering bug that prevented Reignover from casting Gragas' Q, the game will undergo a full remake with new picks and bans. Now, to allow the teams time to strategize and regroup, we'll be taking a short break, but don't go anywhere. The World's quarterfinals will continue right after this. Welcome back to 2015 World's quarterfinals, where Fnatic currently leads the series 1-0. Because of a game-altering bug, the teams have accepted a full remake with new picks and bans. And while the teams load up on the stage, let's look at the draft from the last game and see how things could change in just a few moments. We did a great job talking about everything that could have happened with those team comps. There's going to be new ones coming through, gentlemen. So here we go. With all this information in mind, the teams obviously stay on the same side. What do we expect to see?
As an energy side, maybe. But then again, like Spawn, the thing you've been talking about, like the LPS confidence, I can still see that from the play.
I think the real question is which of these teams felt like they were in the winning position when the game was left, right? Because if I'm EDG and I say, look, we were on track to make the 5 Dragons, no problem, and win this game, and and Fnatic is going to leave it open again, maybe they just go for the same comp.
I'd be a little scared if I was Fnatic saying if we do exactly the same thing, they might do something else besides the Kassadin and kind of round out the wave clear of the composition. But they were shoving up waves, and it showed that when they first picked the Mordekaiser and you first picked Gangplank, they're just going to play Fiora into it, and they're going to have an okay time. So if I'm Fnatic, I might throw things off there and ban those 2 champions.
That is a matchup that if I'm Fnatic, I look at and I'm like, how did we actually plan to deal with this late game? Because we kind of need Gangplank in the comp to help the kite back, and Fiora is never going to join. And one thing that we didn't really hit on is the kite back out of EDG with Rylai's Crystal Scepter wasn't actually that horrible. It's really hard to catch Gangplank Mordekaiser when they start running, Kassadin and Mordekaiser when they start running away, and Fiora is just going to split push. And we saw yesterday, even without armor items, this champion turret guards the absolute heck out of everyone.
You know, something that we did discuss coming out of Champions Select of the last game, or the remade game, was the fact that Fnatic curiously still banned Tom Kench and Lulu while leaving the Mordekaiser GP up. If you're red side and you're going to get 2 picks following the first, why not leave a second large priority pickup with the knowledge that you're going to get 2? You're either going to get like GP Lulu or Mord Lulu, which are both great.
Would be crazy. You throw something that enables him to get in. You get so much movement speed from the Whimsy and all that, so the help picks and all that, and just giving him so much more and enabling the Mordekaiser. That would just be, if they didn't first pick Mord, you'd have a really good core on your hands.
So there's a comp that the EDG ran a lot, which is Kara actually plays top Lulu. Jinx was undefeated. Def was undefeated on Jinx apart from 1 game against QG, and Azir is really good at shutting that comp down. So if you do that, I actually think they nearly first pick Lulu and run the Jinx Lulu comp that we've seen so much success with right now, because
you run Jinx Lulu into GP Mord though?
Into GP Mord, yeah.
Okay.
Heck yeah, how the heck do they get on top of it with an Azir?
I feel
I would do that.
like there's so many question marks, because like I was thinking about Lulu with that pitch point, Azir, and there's so many questions like if they ban Fiora, if the other side would first pick Gangplank, if they Kench, like Fnatic has been banning it a lot. I remember that Fnatic played it in the finals against Origin, so we know that Yosa can play it. Surprising that they still ban it. But there are so many question marks that get raised if you change up the bans.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Like first thought that came to mind, do you ban Fiora? But no, they will just first pick GP. It's so difficult.
I think in my head that Tom Kench would be the most reasonable one to leave up, and you take, because you're happy to eat up your vein as soon as Mord goes on him, keep whatever carry the Mord is looking to go for safe. That to me seems the most reasonable. A quick note, just for everybody at home, Gragas will remain enabled. There was a discussion about whether or not he should be disabled. Will remain enabled. So I expect that he'll remain regardless of the bug, he'll remain in that kind of power trinity of junglers.
Special circumstance to create what happened and make sure that the players are informed and it doesn't happen again.
Yeah,
avoid
extraordinarily rare.
Like if it was disabled, it would create a hilarious situation, because we're back in the old meta where Gragas and Rek'Sai is on both sides, top tier of course.
Because Elise has always been.
But then if Gragas would be out of it, then Rek'Sai would be permabanned, and we would see all these fun junglers, Rengar, Lise, yay!
Yeah, Olaf.
Well, we have, that is something I actually want to come back to, because we talked about the possibility of pinching junglers with Reignover. Because there are so many champions that are seem to be priority bans as of right now, he is getting a lot of leeway in the junglers he's allowed to play. But EDG on blue side, we always talk about blue side having more leniency with their bans. Is this not another approach they can take?
I actually think this was like a really cool game for Reignover as an individual player, because he got to show that his Gragas isn't like horrible, and now all of a sudden that strategy becomes harder to execute on, because like in a 1v1 jungle matchup, right, Clearlove is very, very well known for being able to take the Rek'Sai Gragas matchup on both ends of it and out teamfight the other jungler. That is like what he made a name for. So, and we saw it at MSI a lot. He was a very good team fighting jungler, but he also has a Lee Sin.
You disagree?
I love how you said he showed this Gragas wasn't horrible. He got to do nothing that game. Zero showed that it was good.
Just right, because if he was good, he'd be 10-0, Irene. Come on.
It's like Fnatic's...
But he controlled Vision well and he didn't get invaded. Like, that's really all you need to do at the start of the game.
It's like surviving is doing something good for Fnatic's side. If they survive with this team composition, they're doing good.
Yeah.
Should be applauded for that. You know?
I want to say, yeah, that is a team comp thing. I'm not making the generalization that that is how every Gragas game should be played, but in what should be an accelerated game for EDG, Gragas being able to keep up wards, keep the lane safe, and not give up the mid lane turret is 100% doing Gragas' job in that game.
Yeah, I think so much of this game is going to be dictated in that first 10 seconds of pick ban where we see the bans, which is that is Fnatic going to roll the dice again and say you can have your pick of the GP Mord, and that'll shape the entirety of the pick ban phase. Let's pretend that those are both banned out this time as opposed to left open, and we see what is considered more of a traditional pick ban as of yet in the meta for this tournament. Then where do the teams go?
It depends on what isn't banned out of Lulu, Kalista, Tahm Kench. If Lulu %, I think that's what you do. If Kalista's up, you can probably take that rather early as well. See how you fare with it. I know that there are different things that Def likes to play. You're giving himself sufficient AD carry like that could be a way to go. And then Tahm Kench just Lulu's left up, you snatch that up for EDG and you run it with a centric comp around the Def. 100% I think that's what you do. If Kalista's up, you can probably take that rather early as well. See how you fare with it. I know that there are different things that Def likes to play. You're giving himself sufficient AD carry like that could be a way to go. And then Tahm Kench just is Tahm Kench, man. Like, that guy, as soon as he's unbenched, I want to see him.
Deficio says he's the most OP champion in the game.
I honestly think he is as well. I agree with Deficio.
I think you're at the point. Yeah. Like with that in mind, with what you just said, I really doubt that Fnatic is going to change the website strategy. I think this phase, because they're so afraid of the campaigns, they put this as you said.
I also think that this matchup, because we've seen two very different games, is coming down a lot to coaching and how much Aaron and Daylor have prepared, because Aaron is like, once again, the MSI strategy game 5, but Daylor is also a fantastic coach, and his pick ban phase so far has been like incredibly sound. So I want to know if they change it up. I also want to know whether Horn is willing to pick Veigar into these control mages, because if he is and they are able to run the Veigar Jinx, like I know that it was exposed, but I think that that is once again another curveball that you can throw at this team. How do you deal with Siege? You've like done with the poke, and now we've run this whole melee. Now we'll go to Siege and just continue to throw game plans up.
I definitely agree. I think that Tahm Kench right up here, and then Veigar's like right under him, just barely under him in terms of best champions in the game at the moment. But yeah, one of the reasons we are having so much time here on the desk before the game is because we're giving the coaches that prep time, and they're definitely using it right now. Because we haven't gone into the game, right?
It's not just because we want to talk.
Like, they are strategizing right now, thinking about it, because it is a huge conundrum here. You're sitting here thinking, do we leave it the same? What if they switch it up on us? And both teams are doing that, right? You're not having to do what's happening over again. Because you really got a good feel for it. The other person was really confident in their comp, or if they're going to change it up. So it's a huge mind game going on.
It was a really tentative game in general. I want to return to something that we brought up at the beginning of the day, which is that Fnatic is a relatively counter-focused team. We usually see a lot of resources pumped into Huni and his lane EDG, generally favoring more of the bottom side of the map. But if we recall game 1, the numerous dives over onto Huni and the inability, and we see him on the screen now, for Reignover to get up there and help him until about 17 minutes into the game when they made the realization that they could. That matchup specifically here when he was playing GP as well against the Fiora, getting pushed in consistently, all of a sudden this top lane matchup seems more tilted in Fiora's favor.
Well, one thing I want to point out, and we spoke about it a lot, in our opinion, Fiora is like S-tier top lane right now. And kind of like if you bring any other jungler to Fiora's lane and you get the 2v2, that is a one skirmish just because of Fiora's skirmish is effective. She gets to choose, unlike a lot of champions, every 3 seconds whether she wants to go in or out. Like, I just cannot stress how important that is to decision-making process. And to Reignover's credit, he was there every single time they wanted to start the game in game 1. It was just like that half a second, kind of like yesterday, that half a second too late, and the Fiora just wins out in the 1v1 match.
4 minutes to champion select. Just want to throw that in there. That's the ETA as of right now back in the
It's also like the fact that I feel like Willow and Koro are actually working together. Like with Amazing J, there was very low amount of teamwork. Willow felt almost in a way like, oh shit, gang talk, I just gang bottom, level 2 gang group, some crazy stuff. It feels like in the early game they had a plan, there was cohesion, and they worked together.
Yeah, and just looking at the statistics that they had, everybody on EDG's team had 77% or higher in kill participation, except for Amazing J, who had 50%. So they were basically leaving Amazing J out to dry. And if you look at it on the flip side, everybody on the side of Fnatic has less than 70%, so they're very skirmish focused, but we're seeing more team fight out of them.
Yeah, one thing I do want to point out is that Amazing J is a split pusher and Koro is the captain. So when you have the shot caller and captain in jungle and top lane, and like it's such an important map, you can nearly guarantee that he's going to be like, you need to help me against Huni, because Huni's still a class act, and like one bad performance isn't going to keep the guy down. And you even saw that one bad 10 minutes of the game didn't keep him down for the next 20 minutes of the game even. But yeah, once again, that's just credit to being able to swap things up on the fly, going from a split pushing top laner to a top laner that needs help, and being able to push it on that.
Yeah, and one complaint that EDG was having was that they were not communicating during the group stages, and when they threw Koro back in, their comms cleaned up, their captain was back, he was facilitating conversation. And as a jungler myself, that's what you need. You need information, even if it's just he used his Q, he used his E, he used his dash. What is my window of timing? Where are the wards? Communicate with me. And when somebody's giving me a ton of communication and information, I'm going to go to that lane, because I know the opportunities that are being presented there, and I feel like that's what's going on between Koro and Clearlove.
Yeah, we had some questions about, you know, how Koro would mix back into the team after being away for some time, but also, too, statistically, interestingly enough, in the group stages, Fiora wasn't banned a single time against EDG, and yet wasn't picked a single time against Amazing J. So that's just another thing that Koro has brought to the team here in the bracket stages, is just the ability to pick Fiora and play it pretty well.
Well, it's actually funny because you have Dyrus to blame for that, because rumor has it that EDG was scrimming TSM and Amazing J picked Fiora and Dyrus picked Darius and like trash can the guy, like to the point that he will never pick Fiora in a competitive game. And Amazing J actually credited him in one of his interviews when he picked the Darius into the Fiora matchup, because he was like, I used to think it was a losing matchup, and then Darius made me believe it with how badly that lane turned against me. So that's probably why he wasn't prioritizing it, because he didn't want it to happen again.
I think it's strange that seen so little Fiora.
What the heck?
Because
Yeah.
for us, every time we've seen a Fiora, we're like, oh my goodness, this is so broken. She's jumping around, healing, hitting vitals, doing stuff. And finally,
Reloading!
the team is taking focus on it, because as we said, in these skirmishes is so strong. What is a bad matchup for Fiora? Nothing. There's nothing that Fiora is bad against, I can imagine.
You definitely have to put in a lot of time on Fiora, though. Her mechanics are very similar to Riven's in terms of auto-canceling, using your Hydra at the right time, and having those windows, because you can do things like Q, input buffer, and auto-attack, get your E auto-attack reset, grab this Hydra, and then another E. There's all these different things, and then using riposte at the right time, and just having that reaction time, as well as prediction and seeing what's coming out. So you have to put in the games.
I also feel there was a tiny bit of confusion about build path on Fiora, because I saw an awful lot of Hydra Essence Reaver Fioras like rushing, and I was like, I don't know what the heck is going on here. Whereas it, like, from what I've known, the Koreans definitely have been going Hydra into Black Cleaver into defensive MR items to be able to boost that feeling. That seems to be much more successful, even against armorers.
Yeah, you need CDR for those breakpoints on your Q, so you can continually use it to reposition on people for vital hits.
It's like we're saying that Fiora is a hard champion to master, but we have pro players playing at the World Championship. This is the time to show up with these champions. We cannot make excuses for the pro players. They need to figure out the game.
Well, and this is where we're seeing it become a benefit to the people that have picked it up. So this, yeah, only serves your point, is that the people who have managed to pick her up, we're seeing the power of it, because every time we watch it, we go, what the heck is happening? This champion is so strong.
And as soon as Myron ran over that 4v5 in the SKT game, I was just like, what the heck is this champion? And like, it's so great, because if you run it with Gragas Fiora, it's pretty much a Janna in the team fight without having to give up like the fact that you have to run a disengaged support. All of a sudden you can run Alistar or Braum with it, grab great engage from your support, and still have that disengaged heal in the team fight.
Now the final set of players that we've talked about briefly, but not very much actually in this matchup, Mako versus Yellow Star. We've talked about the calls of Yellow Star, the fact that he creates advantages for his team and opportunities for his team beyond just taking the ones that are presented to him. I want to look at Mako on the other side of things, playing Thresh again this last game. A player that I feel gets overlooked pretty often on that team, but creates a lot for them.
He's my MVP on the team. It's funny because when I look at like Neos and he's a rookie, then I look at Forbidden and he's a rookie, and I hear a lot of this terms on him. Mako was a rookie. He wasn't even the starting support of their team. He was brought in by Death's request because Death loved playing with him. He was actually a substitute. And this guy just does so much around the map. Like his Thresh plays in game 1, he was saving people left, right, and center. The turret dive, the top lane play. He's just, honestly, he's a playmaker, and he's got like a calm, quiet demeanor, which people overlook and that we value very highly. Very modest. Yeah, if you were going to make a rookie team out of the World Championship, you'd throw Niels and Mako in the bottom lane for me, like 100%.
I also think of Mako being the playmaker is a big thing for this team. He's a large part of how they start fights and how they disengage them. And like you look at Yellowstar, he's a great skirmishing player, right? He can start fights, but Mako is very versatile in the disengage portion of it as well. Mako has a really good sense of what fight they can take and which ones they